was 7 years of age, following his father David to the competitions, and has won this Supreme Sheepdog Trials on 4 occasions. Has sent his dog, Knockmaa Bec, 5 years 4 months, to the left-hand side. She should know where those sheep are, Carol, because she's already been up in the brace, but has received a whistle to call her in slightly before she deviates perhaps too wide on that left-hand outrun. And well, Kevin's travelled the world through trialling. He's been the reserve world champion twice, and he is a formidable competitor. We compete regularly against Kevin in sheepdog trials, and nobody has won that competition till he has competed, and Knockmaa Bec is nearly ride with the sheep.
Yeah, surprisingly enough, he's just had to redirect her twice there on the outrun.
Yeah, it's surprising really, because she's been there in the brace. You would have thought really that she would have flown up, but that's it. It's the sheep slightly not lift.
You mentioned there that Kevin has won the Supreme 4 times. Will that be the most that a competitor has achieved, or is it?
I believe J.M. Wilson has the record, but I think if I would say Kevin and a few other competitors are still young enough, really. You know, Ricky's been there one. You know, it's the opportunity is there. I'd say Kevin having slight little problems here with Bec.
She almost looked there like.
Well, I think Bec thought it was Sunday, the Supreme Day already.
Yes, yes. Gosh, how unfortunate there. She's still unsure. It just shows, Marion, that with sheepdog trialling, you just never ever know what is going to crop up next.
Oh no, it's although you know you're the current perhaps champion, but it's a dog, it's a shepherd. You got a few sheep, and who knows what can happen in that 15 minutes when you're in that particular competition.
I think Kevin will know now that he has to really tighten his belt.
Well, from now on, really, it's got to be inch perfect. I'm not sure what is the cut-off point at the moment for the top 15, but most probably it's around the 370 mark somewhere.
Possibly, yeah.
And there's a few scores to come really, which have competed in the last few runs again to come to that scoreboard.
Making sure there he's getting his sheep through the hurdle, not chancing a return in any way.
And as you go further into the competition, you know, Kevin and other competitors have watched previous competitors. We've seen one or two, like yesterday, turning in front of those gates, having difficulty with that cross drive. So these later competitors have had the opportunity really of assessing really previous competitors, seeing really the difficult parts of the competition, and hopefully can react to them.
He's keeping them nicely on the feet here. He's not giving them chance to drop their heads at all.
We've got a saying in Welsh when we drive sheep, trot mochin. And a trot mochin is like a trot of the pig. That's like the way that you want the speed of a sheep to go away from you, really. It's but perhaps when you actually translate it, it doesn't really make sense. But in the Welsh terms, we say trot mochin, you know, and our Welsh viewers would understand really what I'm trying to mean, really, of the way that the sheep go from you. So he's looking for a tight turn here.
Of course, Kevin will have another chance later on as well with Priscilla Key.
Yes, and again,
Yes.
that's when you got two dogs in, he's been on the course. Well, he's been on the course in the doubles previous this afternoon. He's here now. That second chance, not all of us gets that second chance, but he certainly knows really when he goes out that second time. I'll have to watch. It'll be interesting really when he goes out this second run. Will he send Priscilla Key to the left or right?
Yes.
It'll be interesting.
Yeah.
Will what has gone wrong in that first outrun? And some dogs, when you go out there, they have got a preference of a better outrun left or right. And some dogs prefer one side to the other. So
I make it that he has about 7.5 minutes now.
so I said earlier, like 2 minutes per he's got plenty of time.
Yeah.
Doesn't need a rush. Because you've seen sometimes your clock is against you. You rush yourself.
Yeah.
And things can go badly wrong. It can either come off or play against you.
In the shedding ring, Kevin's such a master at it, and it's so good now that people get the opportunity of watching him and being able to learn.
Yeah, it's a
watching
lot
the
to do,
best.
Carol, and you're a good competitor yourself. A lot of it is body language, reading the sheep,
Yeah.
positioning the dog. Because very often you say, oh, well, how can he shed on each occasion? But it's the skillful way that they've mastered those sheep away from. And it came quite easy when it came.
He really does make it look so easy, doesn't
Yeah.
he?
But the skill really of reading sheep and those kind of things, you can go out tomorrow morning and Kevin and like Dewi Jenkins and a few others have got like records and Ricky and selling these dogs in sheepdog sales. We could go tomorrow morning, Carol, let's buy the best dog in the world. I'm going to win the next Supreme International Sheepdog Trials. But what we haven't got really is the skills of these guys that can read the sheep, preempt what's happening. You know, that kind of skill you never can buy. It's only your experience that will actually help you in gaining that.
Yeah, yeah. I think years of working with sheep and dogs and building up that knowledge.
Yeah, and I think the sheepdog trialing has gone far more professional. These guys, like Kevin and a few others, will travel to Scotland to sheepdog competitions. They'll travel up to your part of the world for a competition if they feel it's a big trial field. Years ago, if you travel out to your county once or twice a year, wow, you'd gone far. Oh. Again. So the dogs, the competitors, you get a feel of different sheep.
Yes, exactly that. As you say, the travelling around the country gives you a dog more experience on different breeds of sheep.
Yes,
Heavy sheep and light sheep.
because father, years and years ago, and I say most probably early 60s, when father, my late father was competing, he went to a sheepdog trial and he had 4 black sheep. And the dog didn't like the 4 sheep. So what we bought a flock of sheep then, really, to help the dogs to understand different types of breeds of sheep.
And the colour must have come into it.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
It's and some of these people now will, if they know what kind of sheep is in a particular competition, sometimes they will have those kind of breeds of sheep for the dog to come used to. Because like if we work Scottish blackface, well, our dogs don't see like those kind of sheep and horns on them. So his last element, the single. Still plenty of time left with Kevin.
Yeah, make it that he's just coming up to 11 minutes now, which leaves him another 4 minutes. I'm sure he won't need that. You get the feeling, don't you, Marion? You know when your single or your shed is coming. You can feel it coming. Even when you're watching, you can sense that it's there, it's coming.
Yes,
And that's the sheep sense you were talking about.
Yeah, and sometimes we work too hard, really, instead of perhaps easing off, like Kevin stepped backwards there, really, just to give the sheep a little bit, because if you're really on top of them, you really bunch them more tight. Yeah, is she going to come? No. She had to come. So the judges have accepted. So Kevin finishes with Knockmaa Bec. I'd say he'd be slightly disappointed, Carol.